or quite unexpected. And thank you very much. Like they say, as they say, I'm now getting my flowers while I can hear them. I smell them.
No, but I sent that to you in the week, and
Yeah,
I
yes, you
almost
did.
had a little
Yeah,
tear when I read it. I
yeah.
sent it to you. Yes.
Well,
So,
I'm glad. I'm glad that people are appreciating your show more than even me, because I, I want your show to grow rather than me. To me, I'm just performing a role. So I'm incidental to your show, to the process. So, but thanks for the commendation, and I hope that brings more support for your show from others. But
Mr. Murray, before you jump into your topic, I mean, the elephant is in the room. This Dr. Wickham, Elvis Wickham, had you ever heard of him
you,
before in politics?
you interrupted me. I was just
Oh,
about to
sorry.
say, I was about to say I had seen him making some comments on the DLP TV.
Uh-huh. Ah.
All right, but seeing him in this element, he's a natural. He's a natural speaker, presenter. He would do well if he decides to go into politics. He would do well. But he's a natural. I'm quite impressed by his approach, by his knowledge, by his oratory. Uh, I wonder if he said he's a Christian. I wonder if he's also a preacher, because he has a natural delivery that flows and what. So, but whatever it is, I don't know if you have the saying in Jamaica, but the Barbados have a saying here. Um, if the Lord send it and the devil bring it, you just take it. If the Lord send it and the devil bring it, you take it. Because the important is what the Lord has said. So whatever reason he's here for, the point is, let's see him for what is what he's made an impact on me in this aspect. He would make a good impact on the whole country. So I hope to hear more of him. I will now seek to he's the truth is he's the best thing I've heard in the campaign so far.
Mm.
Seriously, organized, strong, flowing with this topic. He's the best thing I've heard on uh most I heard one or two on in the campaign in general. I think he's the most forceful I've seen so far. And I'm impressed. In other words,
And you have been watching both campaigns.
as much as I can, yes, I have been. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but I think you started the show off with a very strong footing tonight. I hope we can only grow from there on.
Yes, sir. So,
Okay.
well, let me let you go into your topic
Okay.
because at a certain time we have to switch over to the
Okay.
DLP political meeting. Go right
My
ahead, sir.
my topic is entitled SJN St James North last lap vital to results. So, because we are just about 2 full days left
Hmm.
pre-election in St. Left the polling day, which is Wednesday. Um, and a great deal of heavy lifting has been done by both parties and other participants. Both parties, also the independents. I want to welcome them and commend them for their courage and for their willingness to come to the fore with very limited limitation and resources. And we should all welcome them in the spirit of democracy, and give them whatever encouragement and assistance we can in any way possible. Um, a lot has been happening, especially since nomination day, the campaigning, when the campaign really, when the candidates really became official.
Yeah, and the
The,
independent
I,
candidates. Don't forget the
well,
two independent candidates.
yeah. Not only the candidates of the party, but the independent candidates, which I had mentioned earlier. Once they went through successful nomination process of nomination, they then became official candidates for the election. Um, and this has been followed by an intensification of campaigning of various types, by door-to-door campaigning, by the candidates themselves or by the supporters. All that is what is called retail marketing. Retail marketing is meant to give you a closer contact between the politician and the constituents and the people, as against what's happening on a platform or a national scale. So that is why it is so important to do um, retail market door-to-door canvassing and you get to know the people, they get people to know you, they test you, they challenge you, you get insulted, you get praise, but that is the real world. And there's some people who are a little skittish about that part of campaign because they don't like to feel rejected, they don't like to be challenged. And there's some people who reject you, but then good politicians are able to even either neutralize them or woo them to their cause by the way they deal with the challenge. So it's nothing to run away from. It builds you, it provides you, it toughens you. It's a good practice for any any potential candidate. So so then there's the big national campaigns, and I like to see that so far the two major parties seem to have. I think these are the fewest national campaigns I've seen. There used to be a big campaign, it's called
Mm-hmm.
national. Then there'd be spot meetings, and then there'd be smaller campaigns. But I don't. We used to see more national campaigns, as what we are seeing tonight in Western. And where's the DLPs tonight? I didn't get where they are tonight.
I will tell you.
Okay,
I'll tell you
okay.
soon.
So there used to be a big, but they seem for whatever reasons, maybe it's the weather, maybe the because the national meeting often give you a chance to test the waters to see where your support is if you're trying to cross it. So somehow there seems to have been a reduction, and they're doing more and more to door canvas. Or maybe it's a part on the part of on say like if I talk about the BAP, maybe to, to have more national meeting with the bring national issues into the campaign. You see, what if you bring the Minister of Housing, Minister of Water Resources, and talk that might make the campaign more national. It might be more of a referendum on the whole government, which is what normally happens in a by-election. But if you narrow it to door-to-door canvassing, spot meetings, reduced meetings, you reduce the interaction of the national figures, right? That reduces the impact, and you try to control the narrative by controlling the person who say what you want and not about it nationally. So that's probably the reason on the part of the government, for the DLP, maybe it's just lack of resources. If you look at the quality, the material quality of campaigns, the BLP has far outstripped them in the material and the numbers and obvious money spent on their campaign. So maybe that is also an inhibition, because mounting a campaign, mounting a meeting, whether it be a spot meeting, a drive-through, or a national meeting, involves costs, transportation, have to pay for the equipment. And there was a time when politicking in Barbados used to be, people did most things for free. When used to be a time in campaign when only people who work on election day in the polling booth, etc., were paid. No, it's an industry. From the time there's an election here, people come to the parties, and most of them have to pay for most things, to staff envelopes, to make phone calls, etc. So it's the whole materialism of it has become much more important, more demanding on your resources than before. So when you see the posters and the T-shirts and whatnot, that's all part of the campaign. And in the campaign, they normally you talk about the on the ground and on the platform. On the platform where the people speak, it's a more controlled message. It has more respect for truth and accuracy than what happens on the ground. On the ground is where the gossip, the rumor, the lies, the distortion of facts, where people name get taught, lies get told, because and that has been supplemented years by the social media, where paid so-called influencers, many at the expense of taxpayers, are actually paid to give a lot of misinformation and disinformation for the benefit of the government. To me, that is one of the saddest parts of the development of Barbados politics, made possible by again. Remember, we talked about the advantage of incumbency. That's the advantage government has. It has money, it has resources where it can twist and take from one part to use it for their campaign. That's all part of their campaign, and that is wrong. And I think, therefore, that's something we should look at in the future. But as the campaign is going out, remember I talked about earlier last week how you try to peak at about 2 or 3 days of campaign. I think the mere fact that BIP has chosen to go to Western, which is one of their strong stomping grounds, with some of the more national speakers rather than local speakers and youth and whatnot, that is an indication that they're trying to up the ante, generate more dynamism, more interest, more zeal, more enthusiasm, more commitment, more excitement at Western. To the point where they made sure, I'm told, they made sure they paved the road around Western the area around Western, which had been abandoned for many years, they did it on Friday, I'm told. So that's all part of trying to get the best out of your stomping grounds. Because parties normally have favorite spots. And what you do at the start of a campaign, a good manager, right, as soon as you know a campaign in the area, you sit down and work out the two main meetings: your first meeting, your opening meeting, and your closing meeting. And you may appear for those two spots and some in between. And to make sure that where you want to be, you are for your, because that's your stomping ground, that's your traditional ground, that's where people come. And that means a lot to the dynamics of the meeting, the people's attendance, to the whole feature, and as they say, the vibes of the meeting. So that those things are important. So I'm seeing a change now where, like I said, they're trying to peak tonight being Sunday. You got tonight, you peak tonight Sunday with the expectation and the hope that any extra momentum generated we run into Monday and to Tuesday and be ready for it pulling there on Wednesday. In the meantime, you can expect people will be going back into constituencies in areas where they have been before to boost up, to try to any slippage, to correct any slippage, to make up for any loss, just to keep the momentum that will last them to election there, with the hope that they will get an even higher turnout than they have been getting in the past three elections in St. James North. What I noticed but from the campaign so far is that they have not seen or heard much of Mr. Hinkson. I have not seen much of him on the platform as I would have expected, as a man who's been there for 3 straight terms, who's supposed to be so successful. You would think he would have more or a greater story to tell. But my information is that some of that has been cut back because they have been on the ground receiving from very harsh criticism of his performance as an MP. It's not as stellar as you heard in the House of Assembly when he's being pitched with. So I think that he has been reduced. He's not as prominent in the campaign I would have hoped to be. I mean, he's not dead. He's not away. Therefore, he's handing over the baton in another way to Chad in the public eye. So that is something I think that's part of the dynamics that have gone on. But even as we get here and we enter the last lap of the campaigning, it has to be understood that elections are won on election day. Not only campaign, not on election day, not the slogan, the t-shirts, the music, right? Elections are won on election day because that is when all that you have been doing, all that has been done so far, I hope I can still be heard, is to get people to come out and vote for the party, for the candidate. And therefore that is the primary object of election day, to get people out. And a well-organized campaign, especially if you utilize as I hope, I mean, it was basic. It's a by-election in a constituency. Each constituency should have a branch, and that each branch for each party should be the basis of trying to pinpoint or know where your support is, where to go for it, when they want you to be picked up, etc. Otherwise, you may have great public meetings, people attending, cheering you on, but how do you then translate that into actual delivering at the polls, which is the major thing. So that is crucial. Not only that, I think there are 8,500 voters on the list for this election. I think there are some 7 polling stations and 18 polling boxes, right? 18 polling boxes. Each box represents each box represents a set of voters in a particular area or areas combined. The point is that a good campaign manager or a good campaign team will make sure that, and these are very important, that each box has its what is called box captains, people who are supposed to know the boxes and the people who should go in that box backwards of 30, so that as the law allows, there are certain persons who are allowed by law to go and carry out their function on behalf of candidates within the polling station. And our system allows that. A good candidate or agents will periodically go to the polling station to check on how the flow is coming. If my box is up the hill, what kind of turnout? Is it strong? Is it weak? So those are those, right. So that's why it is important to know your box captains. They know the ground territory. They know the people in each road, in each gap, in each house. They get to know who needs a wheelchair, who needs a walker, who needs to be picked up at the bus stop. Especially if the rain falls. If the rain falls, that makes a lot. That puts a whole different spin and operation of all the arrangements you have made. Because there's some people who don't want to catch a cold. If you left to get wet, they catch cold, they might not be reluctant to come out. They might love you and your party to the death, but they don't intend to catch a cold or get wet. Um, some people feel that if the rain, from my experience, some people tell me that if the rain falls and they're delayed, they say that that may be a sign from the Lord that they don't want you to go no forward. So no, they're all kind. You're dealing with human behavior. Politics is about human, trying to manage the human behavior to your advantage. So these are the kind of things that can happen. Then you have to accommodate persons. There's accommodation. The law allows for a person who are disabled. The person who cannot read or write. There's a euphemism in Barbarian politics. If you're working at a polling station or you're talking to somebody, if you're voting, tell them, but my eyes cloudy, especially and my eyes cloudy is a way of saying I am not so good at reading and writing, and therefore I need a sense. They're not going to come to and say, well, I'm illiterate, I can't read. They'll say, my eyes cloudy, they can't see so good. So that is a signal to know that you have to make provision. And the law provides that each person can only assist two people in voting in a day, only two persons. Right, and they have to be there, but they have to pass certain criteria to do that. But that's allowed. But what is also important is that all of these arrangements for the collection of should start. The polling stations open at 6. Plans should have been made by all persons concerned for the persons who are working for them in the polling stations to be at the polling station by no later than 5:30. If they're coming on their own, call the station open. You get brief, you ask any question to make sure all the conditions are met, you're right, etc. At least by 5:30, 5:45, it should be there. Should not be, because that's part of the process. Should be there from the very beginning. So all that should have been arranged down to detail. Who to pick you up, who knows to go where. All that is and not only detailed planning, detailed costs. Those workers have to be paid. The people who are driving the taxis generally have to be paid. Have to put gas in their car. Because election is a very, very, very expensive. In fact, most parties have a separate election in their budget, apart from anything else. So that planning, down to the smallest detail, is very important. Sometimes somebody might be working and they want to get off from work to come home, because the law says that they must get at least an hour to go and vote, right? So the law mandates employers to allow them the time to go out and vote. Some people might, just to make sure they get to vote, might want to be picked up by the bus stand at the corner by a church in order to get to the poll by 6 o'clock. So all those details are crucial to be known and acted upon and followed upon. Otherwise, it weakens the strength of the campaign. It weakens your ability to go out your vote and use them to your advantage. So an election is a very hectic. Starts early. It's very time consuming. There's a lot of stress involved. Things will go wrong. You have to have a raise, but if there are issues that because there are certain both the representation of people are under called the election offenses and controversies act. It is about things like you should not congregate within 100 yards of the polling station. You should not wear any material within 100 yards or going to vote. No rum shop should be open in that constituency. You can't what they call treat people, do things to induce them by alcohol or money. So there's a lot of law at work that people who are working on behalf of the candidate should be aware of, so that if they see any infringement, or if they're suspicious, they should be able to call the candidate or elected to report them, and then let those people within the election house, because they're all trained professionals and run elections. That should be drawn to their attention and let it be investigated to make sure that the law is not disregarded or broken or disrespected or whatever. So these are things that have to give the insight as to the energy and the demands of. Don't forget, people might have been many people might have been at polygamy the night before, or did late canvassing, which is supposed to cease at midnight on Tuesday. Then they have to get home, get back, go to campaign, and then they have to get back here 5:30, 6 o'clock. So it is important that those people be well catered for, that they have breakfast, that provision made for their lunch, that they can be relieved, person go to relief, right? All this is done, and once these persons are cleared by the Electoral Boundaries Commission, have their declaration of secrecy, which allows them to access the polling station. All that is allowable, but it has to be planned. Otherwise, a lot of confusion can come. Like, for example, there should be no loudspeakers, music, loud behavior, unseemly behavior, fighting can within 100 yards, especially within 100 yards of a polling station. So that people, not only the election worker, but the public themselves should be aware of these. It is only if the public are aware of these things and report them that we can begin to get some action on the infringements that we know have been taking place in politics, where, especially election day, when treating people are treated with money and all kind of things. But I remember there were reports one time that it was noticed, but there's never been any investigation. And the law is there to protect it. And if we continue to refuse to protect the system will become further contaminated. So I would suggest that all persons be fully briefed. They should have already been trained, both by the parties, as to what their responsibilities are, how to conduct themselves, what their duties are, etc., to contribute to the wholesomeness of the campaign and their election results. So these are important things that need to be followed through, and that posters. All this talk about posters. Posters are supposed to be done by midnight before it goes into election day. There should be none on these polls at all during election day. As a matter of fact, I remember Light and Power used to, during the election campaigns, put out notices discouraging it because it said it poses a threat to the safety of their workers when they have to claim the polls, or the polls on which the posters are placed belong to Light and Power, largely. So it's their property, and they say it endangers their work, but who have to claim the poll to carry out their duties on electrical, and it's a risk, and they try to discourage it very, 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 very strongly. In addition, the importance of, I know there's been some talk. Well, I'm not sure if you get a chance to talk about later on the voting, the meeting spots. Like I said earlier, these are normally done well, and the government normally has the advantage of incumbency. They can quite it's the best. When you go to the police, it's the first come, first serve, right? So they can tie off, and then if they're tied off, the police can intervene and negotiate to release it, etc. But a good planned campaign would, like I said, pick out its opening meeting and its final meeting, which are supposed to control the dynamism. And this is important because I remember in 1976, when the Democratic Labour Party was still in government, the Barbados Labour Party had for many years used to have its launching meeting down in what is the Lower Green, the area across between court. There's where the bus stand used to be, between Courts and St. Mary's and Jubilee Garden. That used to be the stomping ground with the BLP. And in 1976, the BLP applied and were told that they were too late. They was going to the BLP. But a good prime minister, a good care, you always have a backup. He'd already, as a professional, made application to use Caroline Car Park, which then became the stomping ground for the BLP. In the same way that the DLP used to use Independence Square as their hunting ground, their stomping ground. So and they're psychologically important, where people feel it's a whole question about territory. This is my territory, this belongs to us, and it helps to give people a sense of belonging and participation and involvement in the whole election process. Um, so I think that we are on prime for a good and interesting election. I have not nobody's reported to me any great enthusiasm out there. That's because sometimes the election is so good, it's so dynamic, so enthralling within the country. It spreads to the rest of the society, the rest of the country. And this is one of the quietest, most subdued, most lackluster I've seen so far.
Yeah.
I don't know if it represents a continuation of the vote apathy that has been creeping in based on turnout and voting alone that has been steadily growing in Barbados. So whether this is a further acceleration of it. And the numbers this time should help to tell a story not only of who the victors, how well they did, who the losers were, who the independents, not this not independent, the independents did, but also how the country feels about the government, what the turnout is like. Because we are all into the next election mode already, and those readings are important. It's a pity that we don't have polls, reputable, reliable polls, because the last polls, I disregarded polls in Barbados since 2013, when
Yeah, yeah.
one pollster brought two polls in 2 different days with 2 different results. I discarded polling.
It
That made a
makes
mockery.
what's the name of this the Wickham polls? What it's called again?
Cadres.
Oh my lord, that is a
Two,
bogus thing.
I know. I no longer had regard for what that comes out of that institution and what comes out of Mr. Wickham's so-called analysis. That I know polls have not been as reliable across the world as they have been, but when you can bring 2 different even a telephone poll cannot a proper telephone poll. Because polls are structured by even what is a so-called random poll. It's not that you are randomly asked person. Even though it's random, you look for a person whose age, education, where you live, type of work you do,
Yeah.
and then you look for a random person to fit those
Yes.
criteria. But I'm saying so. Therefore, it's a pity we don't have that to help us. But we'd
Yeah.
have to see how people vote with their feet and vote
Yeah.
with their pens tomorrow. So on Wednesday, I look
On
forward then to
Wednesday.
the rest of the campaign. I look forward to enjoying it and observing it for whatever it's worth.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Murray. And I was there taking some notes, although, I'm not running a party, but I'm sure if the independents are watching, if this is all new to you guys, this is a good piece segment that you should watch and rewatch. Because it is going to give you a lot of knowledge on what to do on election day and the last couple of days leading up to election, how you prepare yourself. I didn't even realize so much preparation that needs to go in. I'm hoping that others that are watching from either the DLP or BLP might be a refresher for you. But this is valuable information that we are getting here tonight. Now, we are going to what we're going to do, the audience is asking for the rest of Dr. Elvis Wickham's speech. And I think that apart from the fact that the speech is very well put together, and I've heard they have some good speeches, some other good speeches as well. But I think that it is because he's speaking, he's one of us then. I think that is there is a freshness to it, in my opinion. Why? And that's part of the reason. And as Mr. Morris says, well put together. But he's saying the things that we are saying, and he's saying it. He's putting the emphasis. I was saying to Dave on things that matter to us, and he's speaking as one of us. So if Dave could get ready to let us listen to the remainder of Dr. Wickham's speech. And while we're doing that, we are keeping an eye on what is happening over there on Zion Hill. That is where we're going to hear some of the new speeches tonight and hear Dr. Wickham's speech tonight. He's going to give another speech tonight. We're going to hear that speech tonight that he's going to give at Zion Hill. Okay. Now, we're going to ask everybody to like and to share. Take a moment. Take a moment. Please, if you have not done that, share this in WhatsApp groups, guys. Share this in WhatsApp groups. And share this on Facebook. Share it wherever there you have people. Pause right now and share. Pause and like. Pause and subscribe. Okay, take a moment and do that. Do that, please. Right? Take a moment and do that. Very, very important. And while you're doing that, I want to ask the over 800 of you that are watching right now, what have you done with your $300? I would like to know. Did you collect the $300? Is it finished as yet? What about that $300, which I happen to believe, I know Mr. Murray might say is hocus pocus, but I happen to believe there's a spiritual significance of that $300. You understand? Because we're coming up to the 7-year covenant, right? These are my beliefs. I believe there is a connection, a spiritual connection to this solidarity money that is being going on. But we will take that up another evening. I just want to put it in your head so we can have a discussion and you can tell me, is it conspiracy? Is it hocus pocus that I'm talking about? Or do you think there's some merit in what I'm saying? But let's go to, I think you would have liked and shared already. So let's go now to Dr. Wickham. Let's go back to him. Go ahead, Dave. Over to you.
Imagine that. We visited another constituent who was at their location for decades, only for in the last 3 years, a hotel be given permission during their construction to put their garbage dump right next to her house. Not 20 feet away, 50 feet away, I mean right next to her house. She would step out of her house, open the door. In fact, you don't even have to open the door. The stench was horrible. And on one occasion, it was mentioned that when the door was open, big rat flew out of the garbage into the house. This is the Barbados that we live in today, where big business and other interests, their concerns, take priority over the average man, who for many on that side lack pedigree, because they like talking about pedigree. We'll come back to that. Bloodline politics. We as constituents in this country seem to exist only for the purpose of empowering those that they believe have some divine bloodline right to ascend to office in Parliament. There's a saying, and I particularly like it. When a man tells you who he is, believe him. When a person shows you who they are, believe him. This Barbados Labour Party has shown us who they are. Believe them. They have shown you St. James North, Reservoir Road. They have represented you. Sorry, I apologize. They have been your duly elected representatives, because that is very different from representing you. They have been the duly elected representatives for the past 34 years, 3 months, and 3 days. And now all of a sudden, on the eve of a by-election, they're running through the constituency, pretending to care about your concerns. Can I further let you know that during those 34 plus years, they were in government for 21. A significant majority of that time, including the past 7 consecutively. They have shown you who they are. Yet in this very street and throughout this constituency, we can see roads that are in dire need of repair, dire need for street lighting. And all of a sudden, Minister of Transport and Works promising lights. Minister of Transport and Works promising fields for the children to play on, promising for roads to be fixed on. While letting you know, by the way, that when any more special than anybody else. Within a priority, we have a government, we have to make sure we allocate resources reasonably, fairly. And that statement may be true, but 34 years, 21 in government, yet the state of the constituency is where it is, under their stewardship. They now have to do, or are now doing studies in Trent to help address the flooding down there. Their candidate says he was in the constituency for the past year. He had a head start. Not our words, their words, his words. He had a head start a whole year, but yet only now realized their concerns for the constituency that he was courting. Only now realizing. Are we to believe that during that year, no constituents shared their concerns? No constituents said anything? Are we to believe that? Of course they did. But there was no election at the time. So why bother? And this is part of why people have little trust in politicians. They say that they will come and promise you the world, anything to get your vote. And within hours, their priorities, their concerns are different. You may get the occasional phone call wishing you happy birthday, but after that, see you in 5 years' time. Wow. I am a person that likes to be very careful with my words. I stand here tonight with a clear conscience, having observed Felicia Dujon for the past few years and gotten close to her in the past few weeks. I stand before you tonight with a clear conscience, knowing that I can recommend her to you to become your duly elected representative next Wednesday, May 21st. And I can do that because this is what representing people is what she has been doing. She didn't know wake up one morning on the eve of by-election and decide to start representing people and do photo ops throughout the community. This is her life. The record is there. It is easy to prove it. We're not making this stuff up. She has been a tireless advocate for children, women, teachers, advocating for better plans, school plans for our children and teachers, represented women. And that's not only my word. Don't take only my word for it. She's just received a number of awards, has been an advisor to the British Embassy here in Barbados, to the OAS. I don't have to come out here alive. I do not have to make up a
pause right there, Dave. Let's pause right there, Dave. Take a pause right there. You know, Mr. Murray, I wanted us to make a quick comment on something that I noted. He had some specific, like Mr. John as well, but the way he did it though, specific issues that he saw in the constituency. One being that it's alleged, and that has come to my attention, where constituents have said to me that they had an issue in the constituency with a development. There was a development of this, high-story hotel, and they went to their representative, and the representative told them, this is the allegation, that the representative, who is Mr. Hinkson, told them that, guess what? I can't help you because I have a financial interest in the development, the high-story hotel development. They had to go and get somebody else because he told them he was clear according to the allegations, and I hear it being repeated here. Yeah,
Marcia, I think that financial interest, from what I recall, I read it. I saw it, I heard it, I read it, was that I think there was a brochure going around publicizing the development, a market development, condos or something like that. And they said that his name was mentioned as the kind of preferred legal rights to go if you want to buy or sell or be part of the project. He was recommended as the preferred lawyer to go to. I think that is where the financial one. I remember I read it. I saw a document. I saw a brochure going with that effect. But that is where the financial interest would have been concerned. I hear you remember last time we talked about how nobody on either side representing cogent, well-structured. He has done it admirably well so far.
Yes, and
I don't- he did right.
he has done it, and then he went on, and see, I can relate the things that he's talking about. He went on then after, I mean, when you think that he is a representative for the people of St. James North, and if this is really what he said, I mean, I did see the brochure with Mr. Hinkson name there, and so that's something that he would have to come and clarify. Why was his name there? I mean, that is an indictment, really, against this representative of the community, and probably explains why he's not on the campaign trail for the BLP. But then this man went on to talk about the garbage. They created a garbage dump beside this constituent's office, home, where the stench is killing this person, and a rat went run into the person's home. That means this man has been walking the constituency of St. James North, and he would recognize and document what he has seen there, Mr. Murray.
I am told from even some within people who have been canvassing for Mr. Blackman that they ran into instances where constituents allegedly complained and reported that they did not quite, that Mr. Hinkson as a representative was very off the cuff, brusque and dismissive, and how you dealt with them. And they did not always get even in basic communication, they don't always get the best chance to explain themselves. So maybe all of that and what is being part of is being fed into why, like you said, he's not up front and center and being able to play a more leading role in this whole campaign.
Yeah, and then when you listen to Mr. Wickham and how he is representing, how he's presenting Miss Dujon as a strong advocate. So he has, what he did, he basically showed us the lack of representation in St. James North, and then he showed Miss Dujon as a strong representative and a strong advocate.
Given specifics that people read about her, I can't recall, and make linkages is convincing. When he does that call, oh yeah, that's right, she said that, you did that. You're making that, but when you leave it generally as empowering or a vague, it does not satisfy the human mind. It's not as impactful as because he's giving detailed, step-by-step, specific instances to supplement his general argument.
Yes, he's making an argument. And the last thing I say before we go back to him is that he also said that the only time that they would hear from him, which you hear this throughout the constituency, it's when it's on their birthday, but that he is poor, and that a lot of people said he's rude. I remember even the lady who fell in the well, she said that he told her, well, at least you didn't die, according to her. This is what you didn't die, and you got a job. Didn't you get a job? And he did not take care of her. So they're all about, I mean, everybody is saying that this man is a poor representative. And here he is contrasting Mr. John, who we all know is such a strong advocate for people. But we probably should go into a little bit more of
just one quick. He's making such a powerful argument that this should have been on the platform night after night in every area, saying either by him or someone speaking the fact, reinforcing and convincing. I'm surprised it came so late.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could understand why he came so late, because remember, he is not as far as we know, he's not a candidate.
No,
or he's not
when I said him,
politics.
I meant the argument that he's making should be made from the start of the campaign, night after night, and prosecute the BLP and Mr. Blackman and Mr. Hinkson all over the constituency. More reinforce that. That's all. And that's all I would
That's what
recommend.
you're saying. Okay, well, let's and I do know that Mr. Jean is because it matters to her. So she talked about the community center, and she did talk about the farming and so on and so forth. So to bring a balance to that, because Mr. Jean herself has been doing that. But let's go on a bit more, Miss Dave.
Here in Barbados, the OAS, I don't have to come out here and lie. I do not have to make up a curriculum vitae. This is who Felicia Dujon is. In fact, she's the only candidate in this election that has a clear record of representing people.
Wow. Pause there, Dave, because that is brilliant right there. Now he's moved from Hinkson and he's gone to he's now comparing her to big man. He called himself a big man, so I'm using that term. To Chad Blackman, Mr. Murray, this is brilliant.
That's what he said. When I talked about my disappointment was being said, I'm not saying Mrs. Dujon has not been represented. I said the whole campaign, not only her or him, there should be people who say this all over and reinforce it, and because part of the narrative on the ground about Miss Dujon or the failures, the deficiencies of Miss Hinkson. That's all I'm saying. It should be. It's so convincing, so obvious.
To see what he said, and it is true. Everybody stop and reflect. Just reflect on Mr. John, what we know of Mr. John, where they're locking Mr. John out of schools, okay? And not just that, but the human rights stuff that she's done. I remember when I just met Mr. John and I was trying to figure out, who is this person? Is she really for real? And this white Barbadian said to me, she called me and she said, Marcia, this woman, you see this woman here, Mr. John? I remember her representing some people in the Rastafari community. And I thought to myself, this woman is really, really very, very sincere in what she's saying. And she could recount the speech that Mr. John made. And Mr. John doesn't know her, no. And she's a white Barbadian. And she came, and that really, allayed my fears, really, because I like to, Mr. Murray, try to figure out, who am I dealing with? Is this person real? And this had to do with when the abuse that happened to the children, when the sex test was presented to them.
The IADB survey.
Yes, and when that survey was presented to them, and think about who she's running against. Who did he represent? Who did he advocate for? Pause and think about that, Barbados. Compare her with Mr. Chad Blackman. When did we hear that Chad Blackman was an advocate for anybody, any group of people?
Marcia, can I seize it? I wanted to say this ever since. We have heard much said about, or much ado being made about Mr. Blackman's international exposure and experience. In fact, Mr. Chad Blackman over the last couple of years has been talking about his international diplomacy, as though it's some airy-fairy scientific special thing. Diplomacy is about representing your country abroad. That is all it is. So when you talk about international, all diplomacy is international, basically, how you represent the country abroad. But I have not heard about his track record. I have not heard, in the same way Dr. Wickham can talk about specific things that Ms. Dujon has been doing consistently over the years. I am yet to hear anybody enumerate, specify anything achievement by Mr. Blackman abroad. Give me show me some detailed examples of the brilliant work that he's supposed to have done on behalf of Barbados. Signing a document is no achievement. AI can do that for you now. But I'm saying there's no evidence of a track record of achievement. Okay, I'll go now. He was in the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Economic affairs is largely a talk shop,
Correct.
You go and meet potential investors, you talk, you sell. It's a salesmanship. It's a salesmanship for your country in the economy. But it's not specific and detailed and thing. So you meet, you go to lunch, you travel, you go to conferences, you export bar. That's why it is so to do that. Nothing was invented.
You know,
Go
you
ahead.
know, I'm gonna let's pause there and let's go back to this gentleman here, because this is a class act here, Mr. Murray. Continue, Dave. Thank you for those comments, though. Go ahead, Dave.
She does not have to pretend. She does not have to pretend. It comes natural. She doesn't have to pretend to know how to play cricket. It comes natural. That is who Felicia Dujon is. And the record is there. It is clear. There is day and night difference as far as representation between the two main candidates. On the one hand, we have a candidate who, like the rest, afraid of the boss. You better fall in line. And on the other hand, we have a candidate who's not afraid of this government. Look at the number of things that we have heard that have been revealed to Barbadians since Honorable Ralph Thorne crossed the floor. We need stronger additional representation on behalf of the people of Barbados, the people of St. James North. We are guaranteed that electing the main opponent continues more of the same, where they continue to view you, St. James North, as an afterthought, a safe seat. We just have to go around at election time and promise them some roads and lighting and fields, and we're going to get their vote. And $300 in shirt, says someone. Well, this time around, they didn't wrap it in the shirt. This is what Felicia Dujon has been doing for years. As the DLP spokesperson on education, she has long been representing people. In fact, so much so that the government is afraid of her and will try to keep her out of schools. But she will continue to represent. You are guaranteed, St. James North, that when you elect her on Wednesday, May 21st, that she will represent you. When a matter arises, she will listen. And I can say that because that is what she has been doing. The record is there. She does not have to pretend. She will go to the relevant government department, and if needs be, will raise national attention on your concerns, St. James North. A vote for Felicia expands the opposition and would finally give you, St. James North, a voice in Parliament. Because what you had before, you can fill in the blanks. But it certainly was not a voice in Parliament. And on the point of voice in Parliament, we had to have a cybercrime bill, which the former representative, the current candidate, support.
Pause it right there, Dave.
Concerns were
Pause it right there. I wondered to myself, Mr. Murray, this is a glaring thing. It was, listen, those of you in St. James North, you got to listen to this speech. If you're serious, if you're a serious Bajan citizen, listen to this speech, because Mr. Murray, it was the same Mr. Hinkson that put the team together and went to Washington to ensure that we were shut up, to take our freedom of speech from us. Hinkson championed that bill. And this man brought it up to talk to the council. I mean, this is amazing. Nobody else did. Nobody else made the connection.
Well, that is why I told you he's made the best speech so far of the campaign. He's making the connections. And because when he said that, also Mr. Hinkson has been guilty on that on several fronts. Apart from the sterling work that this show did a campaign against forcing them to make changes on the back of the bill, etc. His attitude. Remember when he went to Washington, we were told he was scornful and dismissive and insulting towards the Barbadian representative who went there under their own steam, not paid for by government, and had inadequate legal representation. The main representative for the government in Washington was an embarrassment. But Mr. Hinkson, rather than looking after, why could he not, he was the chairman, why could he not have presented the government's case himself. He was the best person. He guided the whole bit through the process. Right? Why did he have to pay somebody hundreds of $1,000s to do it?
It actually, we were told, it's alleged that it was over 200. That lawyer, they did some research, and that his fees, they begin at 250,000 US dollars.
Well, he owes Barbados. The government of Barbados owes the taxpayers of Barbados a lot. He was a disaster. He was an embarrassment for this international representative. Substandard he was.
And not only that, remember that the delegation who went, Mr. Murray, if you recalled, said that he tried to heckle the 20-year-old, the youngest delegate.
Right,
that went on behalf of the citizens of Barbados. He tried afterwards to tell him that, oh, I know you're going to be running for the DL. You plan to run for the DLP in St. Lucie, right? I know, and tried to be so. I mean, he was trying to intimidate.
You're talking about Mr. Hinkson. You're talking Mr. Hinkson.
Mr. Hinkson.
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry. Mr. Hinkson was trying to intimidate Timon. Who remembers that?
Right. I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
And a 20-year-old US student, okay, because the young man was speaking facts and speaking truth to power, he decided, and he tried to do it in front of the
world. It was being streamed to the world. He did it. He tried to embarrass a fellow Barbadian before the rest of the world for exercising the democratic right.
Yeah. But I mean, I think this is what I said. Finally, somebody is speaking about the cybercrime bill and pinning it to him, because he was that champion, in Parliament. But let's go a little bit more, Mr. Murray.
Raised about sections 19 and 20 in particular of this cybercrime bill. The current candidate support. Now, many concerns were raised about sections 19 and 20 in particular of this cybercrime bill. But after a trip overseas to the Far East land, when the team came back, led by said former representative, those provisions, instead of reflecting the concerns of Barbadians, including those in Reservoir Road, Ashton Hall, St. James North, maximum penalties were increased from 7 years to 10, and from 70,000 to 100,000. Yes. From the government that cares. Now, if this is what care looks like.
Can we pause it right there? Why are you laughing, Mr. Murray?
Because every time he opens his mouth, he's proving my point right. My mantra was that he's excellent. He's excellent, I say. I will listen to him for the rest of the night.
Yeah, but listen, the thing about him is that he basically took the sections 19 and 20 and he applied it to the people in and he called out, I don't know the place well, Ashton Hall, and he applied it to them. He showed them how Hinkson was trying to take the freedom of speech from the people in St. James North.
Marcia, in politics, what the most important question in a person's mind is, how does it affect me? What is in it for me? He just made the cybercrime bill relevant to all the people in thing. And nobody's been talking about that. That is the point he made about his whole approach. Right, and the facts were there, but nobody was putting them together. And he's come fresh and making, he's rekindling the whole issue, refreshing people's memories of these negativity things which should be done for the Saturday campaign. I stick to that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so the people in St. James North, remember, don't forget, it was Hinkson that led that parliamentary, what we call it now, when they did a pullback of the bill. You can help me with that term.
It was a special committee that was set up.
Yes,
yeah.
and he was leading it.
He chaired it. Yeah.
Yeah, he chaired it. And remember how we treated everybody that presented in Parliament, if you
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, go ahead, Mr.
No,
Murray.
that's right. He was very disrespectful, insensitive. Here was a man, he made the famous declaration that the Constitution guarantees freedom of expression, but not freedom of speech. Remember that?
Yes,
That should be
exactly.
on his gravestone.